Welcome to Pharmacy View, Technology and Pharmacy Business podcast series, where we provide regular interviews with pharmacists and key industry people within the Australian pharmacy and associated industry. In each podcast, we look to discuss aspects of pharmacy operation and how technology is improving or interacting with each guest's current role or pharmacy-related business. I'm your host, Scott Carpenter, and today's guest is sponsored by Shopfront Solutions, leading the way in digital marketing and communications, providing a cloud-based platform for pharmacies to manage all of their digital messaging and print-based collateral. For more information on the Shopfront Solutions digital platform, simply go to the website at shopfrontsolutions.com.au. My guest today is Phillip Chapman, Director at Lease1. Welcome, Phil.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here and look forward to getting some key takeouts today for your listeners.
You and I have bumped into each other a couple of times over a number of years, but for anyone who may not know, who is Phil Chapman?
Well, Phil Chapman really is the founder and the director behind Lease1, and most of your pharmacy audience will know Lease1. We've been associated with the Pharmacy Guild and endorsed by Gold Cross for 12 plus years now, but we've been dealing with the specific area of retail shop leases for pharmacists for 25 years, and we've been delivering savings to not just pharmacists but other retailers as well, and we notched up $250 million in those 25 years in savings. So we're also heavily invested with the Pharmacy Guild in relation to the rental reports, the sales reporting guidelines, changes to legislation and reforms to try and level the playing field between landlords and tenants. So I think everyone will know more so the company Lease1 rather than the man himself, Phil Chapman. So thank you, Scott.
So a really good history. And you're working nationally, I would imagine. So that history is from eastern seaboard to western seaboard to north and south?
Most definitely it is, Scott. And at any one time over that period, we could have more files open in the south of Western Australia than we would have in Queensland where we're based. So it just varies on where the members are that need the service and the support at the time.
We'll get to the technology side of how you manage that later on, but given the spread of your business customers, or the 2 years of the COVID, really haven't impacted you much more differently than you would anyway.
It hasn't, Scott. And look, whether it be good management or good luck, probably more good luck, we actually over the last 5 years have been transforming our business to make it a mobile and anywhere, any day, any time of day business. And we actually closed or moved out of our physical office space in September 2019. So we didn't anticipate COVID, but we were geared up and ready for it. And we were able to be, for want of a better word, ready and guns on when COVID hit. And we provided a heap of support to pharmacy members with over 600 phone calls and 32 odd sessions and webinars, etc., in relation to support during that period. So we've been lucky to be able to morph our business to be able to deliver the services and the support we do across all pharmacists anywhere in the country. It's been great.
We're talking just the short term, a little bit about leasing from a pharmacy business owner's point of view. Now, I say pharmacy business owner because that's the premise of this podcast series, but really it's small business operators with leases anyway. So we use that as a bit of an umbrella impact. The financial markets in Australia are quite buoyant and also fluctuating greatly at the moment. So what, in terms of your business and your services, is happening from that perspective?
Oh, look, the big key messages we're getting out that's changed in just the short period of time, the last 6 months, is the inflation parameters and the macroeconomic causes behind that. And I know we talked earlier before about interest rates, but I'm more concerned about the CPI, the inflation rates. Prior to COVID, and I think we're going to keep saying that throughout our careers, pre-COVID, it's like pre-children's to some people.
Yes.
CPI, the inflation was running an average for 8 years 2.1%. In the last 2 quarters, we've seen it go up to 5% and now 6%. And the analysts and the economists, certainly not myself, that's not my specialty. I stay in my lane pretty much. I've got enough to deal with just the landlords themselves. But they're saying that inflation could get up to sort of 8%, and we'd probably take a couple of years to come down to somewhere around that 4 to 5% in a couple of years' time. So the interest rate moves we saw is all about trying to deal with that, trying to cool the economy to a point, and I think it's a necessary evil, but I'm really concerned because CPI is a direct reflection and an index used for increasing rents by landlords. And we're really concerned, Scott, with that pre-COVID period, there we are again saying it, where a lot of landlords morphed, particularly the large ones, morphed towards a combination rent increases, so they were getting a sound growth of a CPI plus a percentage. For instance, in a Westfield, you might see, very common to see a lease that have an annual increase of CPI plus 2 or 2.5%. Well, with a 6% CPI, that's an 8 or 8.5% increase in rent. We can't afford it. We've got real trouble on the way, and not on the way right now.
through that last 2-year period, there was great opportunity falling on the really tough operating environment that many pharmacies found them in. It was potentially easy to go back to landlords and say, look, we're struggling to survive during this period of time. We really need you guys to help us with a rental program. But it's now fairly common knowledge that with all of the new professional services that are coming pharmacists' way, that it is a very strong and very stable model. And is that having an impact in the way that landlords are dealing with pharmacies?
Oh, most definitely, Scott. And part of my presentation at APP and again at Pharmacy Connect in Sydney in September is about the post-COVID environment and market for retail shop leases. Landlords are effectively leaning in on those businesses that were resilient, and pharmacy goes to the top of the class there right beside the main supermarkets. They're resilient because they invested and spent the money to be resilient and stay open, and they were the ones, even doctors weren't, medical centres weren't staying open, but pharmacies were there at the forefront the whole time through. Landlords are now leaning in on the most resilient and looking at the value of pharmacy leases and realising that they're worth a lot more to them, and that's where they can see to lean on the rents and leases of the pharmacy sector to recapture asset value. So that's becoming a real thing. We really need to address that in relation to renewing leases early, getting in front of the curve. Landlords are setting up strategies to address your lease renewal coming up. The pharmacy business owners' leases renewals coming up, and they should get in front of that curve before the landlords do, because we've got some rent increases coming. And I'm concerned that the good work we've done over several years now, almost a decade, in flatlining the occupancy cost ratios, which has been very successful, is going to spike, and that's going to give us a real concern. Particularly, we've got margin issues in relation to wages, stock and supply issues and cost of living issues, and then we're going to have rent issues as well. So it's a perfect storm on the way, if not already upon us.
So to a point, if you're a pharmacy business owner and you've managed to have your lease renewal conducted in the last 2 years, you're probably not too bad a position, but if you've got a lease renewal coming up in the next 12 months, it could be a challenging environment for you.
Oh, yes, Scott. Look, if you're in the next 12 months, that's a red zone for us. We used to promote that you should be actively negotiating at least 18 months prior to a major event, whether it be a lease expiry or a lease option. But now we're saying you should be at least 2 years out. And to forecast what's coming, I believe that anyone that's got a lease coming up in the next 3 years should be trying to address it early. Renewing your lease early is going to give you the best outcome rather than waiting, because the landlords are rubbing their hands together. They've got their spreadsheets out and they are looking across CPI, the inflation rates, and they're saying, well, we want a big slice of that pie, and we know we can lean into pharmacy because they were resilient. They can't lean into gyms and hairdressers and massage because they're not resilient. They've proven that. The capitalisation rate and the value of a pharmacy lease to landlords has increased tremendously, and they want to try and capture more of that value through increasing pharmacy's rent. It's a real concern, and it's happening already.
Through my career time, I've certainly been involved working with owners and leasing partners like yourself around early lease renewals, particularly around sale of business. Sometimes that's working really well, sometimes maybe not quite so, but I certainly hear what you're saying at the moment is if your lease renewal's up any time in the next 2 to 3 years, don't wait till then, maybe start the conversation now with the partners. So on that note, I've also over my time been involved in quite a few refits, rebrands, and dare I say relocations. All of that activity is not a cheap expense. We know that. The end of it all, however, you end up still with this quite stable pharmacy business. So given that pharmacies could be a wanted tenant, is there opportune then to maybe go on the front foot and look at short relocation to a better rental situation?
Oh, absolutely, Scott. And we do that quite often. And we've got some good track record and great results for pharmacies that actually jumped out of a shopping centre across the road. For an example, quite a few years ago now, is jumped across the road from a shopping centre which couldn't replace the pharmacy because of the location rules. They went across the road into an old video store. They're paying a third of the rent they were before. Their sales went down 10%. Their profitability went through the roof. Looking outside the square and just thinking, well, this is where I am. I'm in a shopping centre, and thinking, well, I've been here for 20 years. It's time to take the blinkers off and look at the pastures might be just greener over the fence. And that opportunity to leverage that precious thing that we have is those location rules and making those work for you and protecting your patch as well as trying to get you the best outcome is vital. Also, too, just going to your current landlord, your current site and saying, listen, I've got a deal across the road. Can you do better for us? Otherwise, we're going to have to go. We call it a BATNA. It's a basic negotiation skill, which stands for best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Always have an alternative. And the fact that, as you rightly said, Scott, pharmacy is a wanted uses is actually the, outside of your major supermarkets, the duopoly there, the highest and best permitted use that landlords seek is pharmacy.
I understand that strategy very well. Like, I haven't necessarily negotiated a whole lot of leases in my time, but I've certainly been through the opportunity to purchase quite a few vehicles through my time. And if there's one thing I learnt fairly quickly is you never show the salesman that car you're talking about is the one that you absolutely want. They will always ask you the question, what else are you looking at? And always come prepared with, yes, I'm looking at these other models, even if you're not, because they're really looking to read you as to how definite you are about this vehicle. So I learned very quickly to have an alternate purchase, that if this deal's not good enough for me, then I might just go the other way. So make sure your pencil's fairly sharp. In terms of Lease1 and pharmacy business owners, what else is happening in the next 6, 12, 2 years that you guys are providing as a service to pharmacy business owners?
As a derivative of COVID, the last 20 odd years, identifying that lease management and the ongoing lease management and the events that happen year in, year out, and throughout the year of a lease, not just the term of a lease, are being not addressed. So we're rolling out what's called Lease Concierge. It's a side product or an internal product of Lease1, whereby we simply get an email address and a lease expiry date, and we will send you reminders for all the events that happen throughout your lease year and give you some tips and resources and tools on how to manage your own lease. We're rolling that out just now. It's technology driven, an automated process. To date, we've got some 700 plus pharmacy leases alone of the 1,700 leases we manage in the lease concierge process. We've put this into a product now, systemised it, and put some technology around it so that everybody can manage their lease like a professional.
You and I would both be aware, working life of a pharmacist at the moment is very distracted.
Yep.
I think also from a technology point of view, there's so many apps, there's so many platforms, there's so many things outside of just the client care, which is your primary purpose there they've got to do. So anything that provides this little short, sharp reminder that says, hey, look, this week you really need to look at this. Don't forget it, or make sure that this is on your to-do list is a really good prompt.
The object here is no one is actually effectively getting the best of value out of their lease. It's a contract. You look at your supply contracts with your wholesalers, you're constantly looking at the better deals, the buying. Same goes with your lease. Now, example, we'll probably give you upwards of 10 reminders throughout the year of different things that are going to happen about, outgoings audits, outgoings estimates, bank guarantee top-ups, your certificates of currency, etc. The main one is every year you're getting a rent increase. Your lease has a birthday, an anniversary, we call it. We send a bit of a cheeky birthday card out to your lease to say, you have a birthday coming up in 3 months' time. The landlord's got a gift for you and it's called a rent increase. But here's 3 practical tips and suggestions on how you might get that waived or reduced. So just doing that and getting success in doing that at least once or twice throughout a lease term is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. So there's money to be saved from the reminders we'll provide. It's not an app you have to do anything. It all comes into your inbox and it has some practical suggestions, tips of how to deal with your lease and get better value. If we can save everyone some money there, when it comes to me down the road, selfishly having to negotiate the pharmacy lease up the street from you, if you're getting the better deal, makes my life easier getting the better deal for my client who's engaged us. And it's better for the whole sector and it's great for all the members of the guild. We're really pleased to be able to roll this out, and it's automated and it's free.
Many business owners, not just pharmacists, the lease is something that's done every couple of years and then it's just kind of thrown in the drawer or into the file, or these days saved off into a file in your computer. The reality is that the worst thing that you can do is ignore that for 5 years. They'll continue to roll through. With uncontested is probably the right word. Better to have a little bit of a contest so that your landlord knows that you're not going to just necessarily roll over to everything they throw at you.
Well, that's right, Scott. What the issue here is you're conditioning the landlord all the way through to what you can afford when it comes time to renew your lease as well. So your lease is a living document. As you said, if you just put it in the bottom drawer and think, oh, well, I'll have a look at that again in 5 years' time, you're throwing money away. There's money just sitting in that bottom drawer that you're just burning. And the opportunity to extract that value out of the lease is vital. It's compounding as well. Just waiving one rent review in a lease term, we've proven it time and time again, will save tens of thousands of dollars in most cases. And that's money that the pharmacists desperately need. All businesses desperately need. It's just so vitally important. So a few analogies and takeaways you can put there is what we're trying to get across is we need to flick the switch or change the thinking And we try to tell you that you really lease time, not space. Get that in your mindset that you're managing a period of time. The front page, the first schedule of your lease, has no numbers about rent or anything, but it has a commencement date and has an expiry date. So a lease is like a marriage certificate, just happens to have the divorce already packaged in, and we know who gets the dog, the house, and the car. So we need to get that document, treat it as a living document, manage that critical path, all that timeline, so that you're getting the best value out of it. And it's not just at the end of the lease or, hey, my lease is up in 12 months' time. It's thinking about it every day.
Also, probably an interesting analogy from the aspect that I've come from. How many times have I been in working with a pharmacy team and a supplier's come in with a great deal on a cold and flu tablet or some other form of medicine, that the negotiations will be around, can I get a better deal? And we're talking cents. Now, I know there's volume involved in that, but the 10-cent saving on one season's Telfast is probably $100, $200, maybe $300. The potential saving on a lease in a particular year just because you've said no to something or, hey, this isn't fair, is not hundreds of dollars. It could be more, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Let's get this in real time, Scott. Right now, with the CPI, I'd say it's 6%. To go to the landlord and say, hey, listen, coming out of COVID, we've had to increase our staffing, our cleaning, we've got a margin squeeze on. If you were able to say, listen, instead of 6%, we just halved the rent review this year to 3%, that's going to be tens of thousands of dollars for most people. And it's a legitimate conversation, but not a conversation to have, Scott, after you receive the rent review, after you receive the notice that your rent's going up. You've got to do it that 3 months beforehand at least. And that's why we send a reminder out with a birthday card for your lease to say, hey, you got a birthday coming up and the landlord's got a gift, and it's called a rent increase. You need to deal with it proactively. If we're reactionary, we won't get it. The landlord's already banked it. They've applied that rent increase. You're really starting to condition them for the following one, which is 12 months away. We need to get involved.
That's been a really good chat around you, your business, and what's happening in the pharmacy industry. Let's bring it back now, I guess, to the premise of the podcast series, and that is the technology around your business. So what technology platforms, apps, programs are you able to chat about that help you with business efficiency and ultimately in the efficiency in the way that you serve your clients and the way that they can interact with you?
We've always tried to stay in front of technology. We realised a long time ago that to give the service we provide and to be able to fund that, we had to stay in front of the technology curve. And just to give you a bit of background there, we act like a call centre for all members of the Pharmacy Guild. So if they ring up their branch or have a query about their lease, we provide free upfront review of their lease. We have a strategy session with them free of charge, no obligation. Whether they use someone else or they do it themselves, as long as they're getting that advice, we're satisfied. And we provide it to all Guild members. And that's part of the relationship we have with Gold Cross. But to fund that, we've got to get in front of technology. So it's very simple. We've got online booking. You can go straight to our website, click one of the green buttons that says book a strategy call, go straight to your diary, the time you pick, and go straight into mine. So that type of technology saves a lot of the booking times. When are you free? When am I free? It saves my time, the members' valuable time as well. And that's just one thing. I've now got a team of 8 remote staff. We all work remotely. That's been a fantastic thing. We've been working towards that for 5 years. COVID just proves that the path we're going down was the right one. So we're able to be mobile, we're able to be in a timely manner, servicing everybody quickly and providing our systems. We have automated follow-up systems for our emails, phone calls, and we also have now introduced with this automation a fairly advanced CRM system, which allows us to deliver lease concierge so that we can send you out timely reminders. All we need is an email address and the lease expiry date, and that triggers everything and away we go. To the point that when your major lease event is coming up, you'll receive automatically, without me touching anything or my team, it's all systemised, they'll receive 18 months before their lease is due an actionable checklist of the things they should be researching and doing in preparation for lease negotiation. Another one at 14 months, another one at 12 months, and then they get the Hail Mary phone call from me to say, have you done anything? Are you okay? And that's beside all the stuff we send to them automatically throughout the year. So we talked about the CPI. They'll all get a report on the CPI 4 hours with it being released by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. We're plugged in with them. They'll get the birthday card about their lease anniversary. They'll get a reminder about their certificate of currency. Hey, they might have to top up their bank guarantee. Hey, the audit and the estimate of outgoings is coming. The adjustment is coming for your rent review. Hey, the adjustment's coming for your outgoings. So they're checking the paperwork that's being sent to them, not just putting it in the bottom drawer or the top tray and discarding it. And giving them some practical tips. Hey, have a look at this. This is what you're looking for, and away you go. And our years, decades, both of dealing with retail shop leases and the understanding of the legislation in each state and territory, plus putting in technology, plus also knowing all the issues that members have had over the last couple of decades has allowed us to systemise all this. Makes my life very easy, and it's a real pleasure to deliver a service that's one, free, no obligation, and then if members want to engage our services after that, we've got set processes and procedures as well, which is really good. So technology, Scott, and this platform to be able to talk about applying technology to deliver such a service is a really great opportunity.
So we're coming to the end of our time. Was there anything else to chat about today?
Oh, look, the main point here is get in front of the critical path of your lease. Go and grab your lease, pick it up and have a quick read of it. You should do that every 6 months regardless. I really want to get the point across of leveraging time. We get the best deals, we get the best opportunities, we find and extract the best value out of the land that you lease and the time you lease if we can leverage time. Getting in early, we negotiate a lot of 10-year leases for pharmacists, and they come into our system. We tell them that in 7 years' time, we're going to turn that 10-year lease into a 17-year lease. And they look at me pretty strange when I do that. They think I lost my way with maths and they start to doubt our deals. But what I'm talking about there is 3 years prior to your lease expiring, we need to create an event to renew your lease for another 10 years. Take the landlord out of the cycle. Book a phone call with us, go online, pick a time that suits you, go in my diary, away we go. And we can talk about setting up a strategy for you and planning that future for you. Scott, leveraging time is where the money is where the value is.
The biggest takeaway from me today from this conversation is it doesn't matter whether your lease renewal is happening this year, next year, or in 7 years' time. We've been very fortunate over the many years to have very low inflation, but now all of a sudden that's not the case anymore. And that inflation rate is going to impact your leases in the next 6 to 12 months, 2 years, and better to actually get on the front foot now and start the conversation as opposed to have a CPI rise lob into your inbox and start having to pay for it.
Absolutely, Scott. We can't afford it. So the whole sector can't afford it.
Phil, thanks for your time today. It's been really great to chat. Maybe a chance that I might actually catch up with you at Farmers Connect in Sydney later this year, and it would be great to see you face to face and say hi.
Absolutely, Scott. And I'm hoping that we've got the opportunity to launch an exciting new product. It's a product that I think is going to add back tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to a lot of pharmacy owners with relation to their security on leases. So if we can deliver that, I want to make sure that your platform gets the first chop to promote it and get it out there.
Happy to have a chat at any point in time. If it means another episode, and we can probably even do that just prior to Farmers Connect. Thanks again for your time today. It's been great to chat.
Thanks, Scott. And thanks to your listeners. Look forward to chatting with you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening today. Pharmacy View is a technology-focused podcast provided by Melbourne-based business Arian Technologies and Shopfront Solutions. Over the podcast series, our guests include pharmacists, retail managers, wholesalers, suppliers, and industry technology partners. If you would like further information on our podcast series or to participate in one of our episodes, feel free to send me a message or touch base through the Pharmacy View website, pharmacyview.com.au.